Ryan in his basement, and we are talking about biodiversity and bees. Ryan, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
It
thanks for
is
having
an honor. Tell us about, without getting too deep into how this is all going to work, tell us about Scopa. How'd you come up with that name?
Yeah, so Scopa is the part of the bee, at least the wild bee, that they use to collect pollen. So honeybees have what's called a pollen basket,
Okay.
whereas most wild bees have fine hairs on their legs and on their abdomen they use to collect pollen. And so I just liked the sound of the name, and I decided to choose that.
Okay, now this is a new company. It was brought to life in 2022. This is very, very new.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe give us a bit of a history of how this came about, because your background is scientist and Shopify.
Yeah.
How did that get married?
Sure. So I think I have a lot of interest outside of what I was doing in work day to day.
Of course.
And back in 2018, that's when the first reports started coming out from Germany about the large decline in insect populations. So there they had seen around a 75% decline in biomass of insects over around 30 years. And I mean, they were an outlier. It turns out that it's not that bad globally, but on average, we're looking at 10% per decade. And so,
That's significant.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And people, aren't aware of this even occurring. It's happening all around us. It's why your windshield isn't covered in bugs the way it was in the 90s.
Didn't even think of that. You're right. Yeah.
And so, this is happening everywhere. And so I wanted to play some role in reversing that.
Okay.
And so Scopa is, a company where we build small wild bee homes. And I like to call them, a check engine light for your yard. You put them out in your yard, and if bees don't show up, it's indication that something's wrong. It means you need to plant more wildflowers, flowering plants, and once you do that, they should return. But by default, if you don't provide the habitat and you don't provide the food they need, they're not going to show up, and they'll keep declining.
Now, I'll be honest with you. This is all very new to me. Okay. And I read your bio on your website, only to find out that there are 20,000 species of bees, only 8 of which are honeybees.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, because that just blew me away.
Oh, exactly. In fact, I was in the same boat. Just a few years ago, when I thought bees, I thought of either honeybees or bumblebees. But yeah, there's a massive diversity. So 20,000 globally, around 900 species in Canada, and close to, I think it's 2,000 in North America.
And how many in Ottawa?
Ottawa, I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Okay.
But there's, we have a small collection over here I could show you as well.
Okay.
But that's just a sample of what's around here, and they're all shapes and sizes. Again, bumblebees are large and they're very obvious, but there's some as small as 2 to 3 millimeters long. And so some of the holes in my biome, you can see, they're only a couple millimeters wide. They're very, very tiny. And around here, that would attract something like a yellowface bee, which is on average 4 to 6 millimeters. You'd almost think it was a fly. You wouldn't even realize it's a bee unless you looked at it under a microscope.
Now, we all talk about wanting to make a difference, okay? And part of what our goal is in doing this kind of a video is to raise awareness, and that maybe hopefully 1 or 2 people or 3 people will say, hey, I'm going to get myself one of these. So yes, you're building these and they can be put in your garden. What do you want to achieve?
Yeah, I want this to be something that makes people rethink how they design their lawns.
Okay.
When you put this up, if bees don't show up, again, that says that something's wrong. And the way to address that is to think about alternatives to your lawn. A lawn looks great aesthetically. People like the look of it. The trouble is it doesn't support much in terms of life.
Fair.
So when you start planting wildflowers, things that are native to the area, that's what can start to support a wide variety of insects, of bees, and really start to kind of bring biodiversity back to our urban areas. And so for me, ideally, I would love for this not to need to exist.
Right.
If you stop mowing or cleaning up a lot of the debris in your yard, leave some dead wood around, then beetles will make holes in that wood and bees will move in. But when you clear the dead wood, when you clear that debris, that's when something like this becomes necessary, because bees need 2 things. They need a place to live, they need food.
Okay.
This, if there's no other alternative, becomes that place to live, and then wildflowers and flowering plants become the food that they need for the other side of that equation.
Perfect. All right, Ryan, I'm looking at this, and to me, it looks like a strange abacus of some form. What is this all about?
Yeah. And so, fundamentally, what we're trying to do here is mimic where bees would live in nature. And so normally they would move into beetle holes in dead wood. And so what we have here is a range of different hole sizes for different species. Okay. So around here you'd find really small yellow-faced bees in the smallest holes, through to various leafcutter and mason bees in the larger ones. And so what they do is they would move in to one of these blocks, and you can see it there. We have a groove about 5.5 inches long, and the mother bee would move in and start to raise her young. She would collect pollen and nectar, pile it up, lay an egg, build a cell, and then repeat that down the full length. And when she's done, she seals off the front permanently and starts over. And she'll try to build as many of these cells during her lifetime in one season as she can.
How do you know when it's time to clean it out?
Yeah.
Have they moved out so that it can be starting again?
Yeah. In fact, you actually don't need to clean them out.
Okay.
If you have ones that have a large number of nesting sites, oftentimes what will happen is wasps will gradually take it over. The only way to reboot
Cheeky
it
buggers.
is to, yeah, exactly. The only way to reboot it is to clean it out and start over. In the field, when scientists are studying bees, they don't clean them out. They leave them out there, and bees will actually clean them out for you. In many cases, the bees prefer to actually live in a site that's been previously nested in. And so you can leave this
like many of my clients.
Yeah, exactly. They want something that's been previously lived in. And so it's no different here. So you can leave this out year round, and they'll clean it out. Now, if you see one get sealed off and you want to provide another nesting block so that there's always available space, then you can set this aside somewhere safe from birds, put in a fresh block, and that means that you can always have empty cells for them to move into.
And you can make these separately, obviously.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can buy each of these blocks individually, and then the house itself just protects it from the elements, from the weather and from water, to make sure it doesn't get
Brilliant.
windy.
I love it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. I just got a bit of a news flash because I've ordered mine for my garden only to find out that Ryan said, "What color do you want?" Hello. It can come in my own colors?
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so a lot of people like the natural look, and so that's what this is. It's just a natural UV protection.
Yeah.
But we also have a number of other colors. So basically anything you want: blue, red, green, orange. There's also other natural ones like rosewood, mahogany. So it really comes down to personal preference. And they're all designed to last for 4 to 5 years, won't flake or peel like a polyurethane. And so after a few years, it starts to fade a bit. You put one coat on, and you're done.
Brilliant. I love it. Can we logo LaFontaine and Company on the side of it?
Potentially could if you're interested. I've got a little CNC machine over here that I use for the
I'll
logo.
tell you, you know what we're gonna do? This will be our housewarming gift for everybody that buys a home. We give them one of these with a Laugh & Co logo.
I'd be happy to do that.
And that'll be my contribution to biodiversity. Awesome. All right. Explain for a neophyte like me the concept of pollination.
Sure. So pollination is kind of the foundation of reproducing for many plants.
Okay.
And so whether, when you're looking at vegetables, vegetables first flower, so something like a tomato, it first produce a flower. Well, the tomato doesn't show up until that flower is pollinated. So something like a bee, most likely a bee, would show up and it would pollinate that flower, which would then lead to that flower fruiting, which would become the tomato.
Okay.
And so much of the food we eat, apples, lots of fruit, lots of the spices we have, all these plants depend on pollination. And then all the flowers in your garden, if they want to propagate and spread their genes, they need to be pollinated. And bees are by far the most prolific and effective pollinators, and so they're critical to that.
Gotcha. So now we take that and we take your passion behind all of this, and you've created these homemade beehives that people are hopefully going to put in their yard. What will be the barometer by which you'll say this has been successful 2 years, 5 years down the road? What do you hope to achieve?
Yeah. I mean, it seems a little ambitious, but I would love to see one of these in every backyard and on every patio in the country.
Why not?
Exactly. Like for me, this is something that you use to regularly monitor the health of your lawn, your neighborhood. If you didn't have a thermometer outside, you wouldn't know the temperature. Or if we didn't have thermometers, in the same way, this helps you to know, are the pollinators in my neighborhood, successful? Is the population healthy? And so this is something people can use to become aware of that and then make changes if they're not healthy.
Well, it really hit home for me when you said it's the check engine light for your garden.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, where would somebody buy this? Obviously, we can reach out to you through your website. Let's get you known. What is something like this cost, and how quick is the turnaround, and how easy is it to install in the garden?
Yeah. So right now I'm taking orders through my website,
Okay.
And I'm doing markets around town as well. And so I charge $200 for these. And the reason for that is these are built from solid white oak. And I designed this in a way that it should last for decades. My goal is to have these that last me. And so, unlike a pine, based house
soft,
that will just kind of rot and wear after a few years, the foundation is white oak, and then I treat them with the best environmentally friendly outdoor finish. And so with minimal maintenance, this should last for decades.
Okay. And I actually noticed on the website, you have instructions on how to maintain the hives, when to clean them, the seasons, etc., which is brilliant. Well, I know I'm going home with one today. I guess the next thing is, we touched a little bit on it before we got on camera, and that is, people have this notion that, well, I'm allergic to bee stings. Tell me about that, because you've got a surprise for me.
Yeah. So I discovered that I was anaphylactic in the fourth grade.
Okay.
So I got stung and I was hospitalized for a couple of days. And so, I'm very well aware of that problem. And for me, I can't go near a honeybee hive or a wasp nest. But these types of bees, as you can see, they live alone. They're solitary and they have no large nest to defend. And it's because of that, they're far less aggressive than a bee that would live in a large colony. And so you can put these on your patio, and as long as you don't try to catch the bee or directly harm it, it's fine. In fact, the males don't even have stingers. And so these are very safe to have around. Again, I'm anaphylactic. I couldn't have them around if they weren't safe. And so they're about as safe as you can get.
So we need to break the idea that all bees, because again, we touched on it, there are 20,000 species of bees, and I think there are only, you said 8 types of honeybees.
Yeah.
In other words, there are a lot of bees out there that won't sting us if we don't go anywhere near them.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I have learned a lot in a very short period of time. I'm going to be installing one in my garden. Ryan, we're going to catch up a whole lot more off camera, and I think you're going to show me how you make these. I might even get my hand at using a power tool today, which makes me all excited. So thank you for what you're doing, for what Jessica is doing as well, your studies, and I hope that somehow together we can make a little bit of a difference in Ottawa and expand from there.
Yeah, thanks for coming over.
Well, I appreciate it.